go. It's going. All right. Recording, starting over. Now. All right, here's the little schedule for today, which is different than how it's going to be the rest of the time. But generally speaking, it's the welcome. I'm already halfway in, and I haven't even started. And then illuminous Professor Gary Evans, who just retired a few months ago after 39 years at Harvey Mudd as a professor of entrepreneurship, is going to talk some. Then we're going to go quickly through our 24 to 30 mentors, giving 30-second little intros on themselves and what they're doing. And that's actually kind of practice for you guys. If you have a company doing your elevator pitch, once you're in the pods, you're going to do the same thing with your about 10 to 12 people with your mentors. And then what you should do, also do the little emoji thumbs up if you're excited about their pitch, which means you understand their pitch and you're excited. Because that's the two goals of pitching something to somebody. Quickly, make them understand what you're talking about, and it's interesting and exciting to them. Then we're going to do our pod breakouts, which are by your animal names. And that's for you to start talking with your mentors and getting to know each other. And then 125, we'll have a 5-minute break. Then normally we would have a different thing. Normally we'd have guest speakers the second half. This first class, we're going to have the presentation, which is usually the first thing in the second half this time, including Q&A all this time during the talk, after the talk, basically about a half hour to 40 minutes, all that. Break back into the pods for more chit chat. We're trying to do this scalable with our 100+ registrants. And then I call it closing circle because that's what they call it at my kids' elementary school. Where we come back together and say, okay, good night. Have a good weekend. Go work on your company or do your homework. And so normally next week on through the rest of this time, it'll be more like this schedule. There'll be a class with Q&A sort of on a topic, then pod breakout, catch up, updates on your company and pivots and practicing your pitching, 5-minute break. Then we'll have the guest panel, 3 or 4 speakers and Q&A. And then the guests, when we do the second pod breakout, the guests will get assigned to some pods and they'll get moved through. So you'll get a chance to talk to the guests a little more one on 10. Okay. Can everyone rename themselves in this format with your pod first? That makes it easy for me to break you out into pods because it shows up alphabetically on the breakout thing. Then your name, your school and year that you will or did graduate, and then optionally your startup name if you have a startup or an idea. That's something to do now. Thank you. Thank you. Here's what mine would look like. I wouldn't actually write the NA. As you see, I didn't. All right. If you have questions through this, just use the chat anytime. There's that thumbs up if you get excited by a pitch. Hopefully I'll see when there's chats. And let's see, what else? Oh yeah, we're gonna invite everyone to a big Slack, HMC Inc. Slack, hmcinc.slack.com after today. And that'll just be a way to get in touch with people or ask questions to everybody in a asynchronous manner. There's some other resources at the 5C about entrepreneurship, which maybe I'll actually, Matt, can you talk for 30 seconds on what those are? Are you on and listening?
Yeah, can you see me? Anyway, shoot, what happened?
I stopped the share so we can see you better.
Okay, you can see me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't see anything, but I'm Matt Thompson, Pomona College, class of 96, and I currently work in venture capital at Skyview Capital and also part of Tech Coast Angels, a large angel investor in LA. But I really was involved with trying to connect a lot of the different 5C resources for entrepreneurship. So we created a Facebook group. It's called I'll post it to the chat. It's Claremont Entrepreneurial Investors and Entrepreneurs Facebook page. It's got about 500 members. That's a good way to share information. Then there's obviously HMC Inc. Then there's Pomona Ventures, which is the Pomona College's entrepreneurial group, which has this event called Sage Tank, which is an annual pitch competition where we've got VCs come and evaluate 5 college startups. And then I think there's also some activity at CMC. Chris Strider might be better able to talk to some of those initiatives. But the whole point is there's a lot of great initiatives. You just start looking and try to get connected, because if you join these lists, you can hear more about what's going on and maybe find investors or partners or free interns. So that's it for me.
All right, thanks. I'll go right back to sharing. Beep. All righty. Oh, other resources. So these are all the things that we have, like little partnerships with HMC INQ, where you get like credits, $10,000 of credits on AWS or Google Cloud, free registering your company with Clerky, or special bank account without fees, or delayed legal expenses, or I think HubSpot's like 90% off their costs for the first 6 months or something like that. So that's how we normally have. This time, because everybody's not really real companies, we're not really going to give it to you. Sorry. No, well, just kidding. We are, but you have to attend through the first 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, if you're still doing this, then we'll open this up. Then you're real. Okay. Another thing we're going to do is a sort of Tuesday lunch club thing. There's the Friday class. This is totally optional. We'll send an email out with the details, and that'll just sort of be a random mixing of people interested with each other on Zoom to meet up probably Tuesdays at lunchtime to say like, oh, what's your company? Oh, what's your idea? Oh, welcome. So anyway, there'll be something about that later. And then the reminder that we're going to have a demo day, 99% chance it's on Zoom, on October 23rd, which is the 8th week of this class. So there won't really be a class the 8th week, but that's the deal. Everybody who wants to pitch can. It'll be a 1-minute pitch and a 1 slide that you're pitching over, which is the same way Y Combinator did it this time. And we are investing up to 5 companies, get a $50,000 investment for HMC INQ, depending if you're investable worthy. There is the requirement that that at least one of the co-founders in the companies for us to invest is Harvey Mudd, student or alum, just because that's where the money was invested via. But there will be a lot of other people attending also, so don't worry. It doesn't mean you can't get invested in if you're at that stage. All right, real quick before we get Professor Evans to give a talk, because I'm already running behind. What is HMC INQ? The history went a little funny. 2017 with 5 companies. It was pretty much me giving advice to them all. 2018, we had 5 companies, but a lot of them were kind of, 17, there were a lot of mostly first-time founders. I think maybe they all were, relatively speaking. 2018, we had a lot of more experienced founders, and I found them all helping each other more. And 2019, we just sort of got more companies and more alums and more speakers, and it was nice because there was a lot more resources, because I know so much, but I know so little also. So much is known by everybody else. And now 2020, oh, I missed it. There it goes. Boom. We've got like 12 of these things. And I was going to draw lines between them all, but you know, we can intermix between pods and there's Slack and whatever, but this is how we scale. Notice there are 12 of me now. What do you get from HMC INQ? You get acai, every accelerator, incubator. Basically, you should be looking for, hopefully, all 4 of these things: advice, community, some accountability, and hopefully investment, or worst case, they're not charging you to join their incubator. So if you're looking at future accelerators, incubators, just keep in mind, this is what they can give you. They really can't, you know, get you your customers, or I don't know, they can lead a horse to water, let's just say. So this time it's 8 weeks. Twice a year was the plan. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll do another one in the spring. It's sort of like going to the dentist. Twice a year is the plan. Forever. Yeah, that's just saying that once you go through it, you're part of HMC INQ. You're like an alum, and you can always reach out and come back. And we've got a lot of our mentors are actually alums, not just the colleges, but of HMC INQ. And I believe now, oh, why do we have HMC INQ? 2 reasons. One is to teach what isn't really taught in college, and that is sort of the real world and business and things like that. At least it's not taught at Harvey Mudd. Maybe it's taught better at some of the other 5 Cs. Was taught a little bit at Harvey Mudd, but now Professor Evans is retired. And of course, the number 2 reason, or really the number 1 reason, is to get rich or die trying. We're actually like a real, it's not just a school thing to teach you. We are actually trying to make wise investments that return money and profit to ourselves and our investors. So that, here's the HMC quote from our illustrious Gary Evans. Enjoy yourself and figure out how to make money. Wait, that's Gary Evans. That's the other serial killer, Gary Evans. I had the wrong one. So why don't we let Professor Evans talk a little bit, if you're available and your audio is working.
Yep, my audio is working and I am available. And make sure you cut me off at about 12:55 because I have to unload a big position in Apple before the market closes today. I'm going to do that right at the end, I think. I would have mostly welcome, of course, the students who are participating here, because from what I understand, there's about 50 or 60 or 70 of you. I'm not sure how many signed up, or not sure how many showed up today. And I have seen that you are from all of the 5 Cs and not just Harvey Mudd, and that's very encouraging to see. I want to say a few things to you, because part of our objective here is to encourage as many of you as can, simply, even if you're not planning to do a startup right now, or you don't even know what's involved in this, to nonetheless tag along and participate in this to the best of your ability, given your time constraints and all, and try to learn from it. You may not be associated with a team that sees themselves as competing in Josh's or to HMC INQ incubator contest, or the funding and the like. But we're going to try to, I've asked the mentors to make sure that when we break out in pods or when we have guest speakers, that in addition to addressing those of you who are seniors or even have now graduated and are thinking about doing a startup or funding your startup, to also try to address a lot of the message to say even freshmen, but also of course sophomores and juniors that are at the college that have very limited opportunities to learn much about entrepreneurship now. So we're trying to accomplish multiple goals here. And part of that is to substitute to some extent the fact that you can actually take an entrepreneurship course at Harvey Mudd at the present time, and won't be able to also in the spring. So my approach to this has always been to start very general and then become very specific. I need to ask you, Josh, I can't share a screen with you on this time around, right?
Do you want to? I can allow it. I've allowed it.
Okay, yeah, allow it, and then I'll try to use it here in just a minute. We'll see if it works or not. And we'll set it up in the future. I wanted to show them a couple of things. So I would, as I said, I would start out most general, and then we would try to get specific as the semester rolled on. And in the classes that I taught, we would have guest speakers who would come and spend some time with the students, and even go to dinner with students, many of whom are on this page here, who are participating in this as mentors, in the hope that some of what they knew and what they were learning would kind of rub off. Now, I think the primary goal for teaching entrepreneurship to a freshman or a sophomore is to simply stimulate your interest. Because as Josh and others will tell you, entrepreneurship, especially at the very top level as a company founder, is not for everyone. Even if you're the sort of person who likes a little excitement or wants to get away from a boring job, it really takes a certain kind of character and sense of dedication and motivation to really get involved in a long-term, high-stress startup. And as most of the people here who have succeeded at this or going halfway through this will tell you, there's a lot of really hard work and a lot of periods of stress in entrepreneurship that I think dissuades people from either participating altogether or basically shuts their companies down because they weren't anticipating the trouble that they were going to see as they started their firm. It's kind of romantic in the United States to think of yourselves as an entrepreneur. It seems to be the only sector out there that's not suffering from the pandemic. Technology, I mean. So in this case, we're talking about technology entrepreneurship, but although we're not restricted to that. And sometimes the sort of romantic image of it belies the actual sense of commitment and the high skill level that is required to actually be part of an entrepreneurial team. I mean, as I look around, I can see about 25 faces here, all but 5 of which I recognize. I remember specific things about the people I'm looking at right now that sort of convinced me that, yeah, I think you've got what it takes. You really seem to be dedicated. You really seem to get all these issues. And you seem to understand the level of commitment, sustained commitment this is going to take. Or you'll learn that at some point, even if you didn't know it when you first started taking your engineering classes, let alone your entrepreneurship classes. But I've also seen, of course, a substantial amount of failure in entrepreneurship. Of course, everyone has. It's a high-risk area, to say the least. And as the failures are sort of, being set up to fail, a lot of times there are telltale signs far in advance, red flags far in advance that a company's in trouble. This allows us, I think, it's difficult to teach entrepreneurship because of the nature of the field, but being familiar with a lot of entrepreneurs and kind of being familiar with what little literature there is about entrepreneurship kind of gives you some clues as to things you need to do and things you should try to not do to raise the likelihood of being a successful entrepreneur. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about as time permits over our next 4 weeks are some generalities about some of the more important things about fundraising. You're going to see me on the battle wagon on fundraising because, especially from Mudders, because I think one of the largest flaws that Mudders have is they are reluctant to give up control of their companies, and they're really reluctant to get professional levels of funding, even though the business plan that I'm looking at that they're presenting to me or they pitch to me clearly makes it obvious to me that they really need a lot of money to speed up the acceleration of the company. And so I've seen a lot of companies either sort of die on the vine, they're mud companies because of this sort of reluctance generally, not from everyone, but from enough Harvey Mudders to where, to me, that's kind of a sore sticking point. So I'll be talking about odds and ends like that, and trying to sort of, in my case, mostly address even freshmen. I presume there's some of you there, but also sophomores, juniors, and seniors who are still thinking about doing this, and bringing up these issues to give you something to think about and trying to make you aware of the degree of the commitment that it takes to actually try to succeed at something like this. So that's all I have to say right now, Josh.
Perfecto. You've got 2 minutes to short Apple or sell it, then short it. Cool. Well, let me get back to I guess we're going to move on to intros from the Peanut Gallery here. And I actually had an order, but I'm going to let's see. I was going to do me first, but I'm going to let Benson go first because he's got to hop off for a half hour at 1.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Benson.
Okay. 30 seconds.
30 seconds to 1 minute.
Okay.
If you like what they're doing, you go in your little video. I'll stop my share for a second.
Yeah.
Give it a thumbs up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Benson Tsai. I'm Harvey Mudd, class of 06. I'm a mentor here, and I've also kind of participated in the program. Out of Mudd, I started a company called Motive Power Systems with another Mudd alum back in 08, actually, doing electric trucks and buses. And then I spent 5 years working for Elon Musk at SpaceX, designed the battery system for Dragon. That's why I'm in Dragon Pod, if you look right there. And now I started a pizza company. So it's a pizza company powered by automation. So we make a pizza in less than 4 minutes from raw dough ball to sliced box pizza. So if you have questions around starting a hardware company and fundraising for a hardware company, I'm going to be one of the folks you can come and bug about. I think that's it. If you like pizza, talk to me.
Woo! All right. Thanks, Benson. We will let you go. or now? Okay. Now on to the important stuff. Moi. No, I'm Josh Jones. I was class of '98. I started DreamHost with Dallas. I was gonna say with Dallas and Vita. No, Dallas and Sage and Michael. 4 of us, all at Harvey Mudd, computer science majors. '96, bootstrapped. Did that for 13 years. They're still going. I got out. I stepped back in 2010 and sold my shares in 2013. Started hanging out with some Harvey Mudd alums like Jonathan Schwartz and Max, who were doing a 3D printing startup. When I was into 3D printing back then, they got into Y Combinator. I started doing some angel investing at Y Combinator, figuring out that I wanted to do my own Y Combinator, but why would anyone go to my Y Combinator? And it took me 4 years, but I put it all together, Harvey Mudd Y Combinator. So started HMC Inc. in end of 2016, but first class was 2017. In the meantime, I did a lot of different weird stuff. I got into Bitcoin in 2010, so that's what funds it all, and angel investing, and I'm trying to build a gondola on the west side of LA for transit purposes, doing an animated TV show, and own an airline in Alaska, and I don't know. That's about everything. There's a few more things. Okay, and I'm a programmer. What else we got here? Look at this. I made little slides for you guys. Randy, everybody be ready to unmute yourself and talk.
Yeah, you caught me off guard. Hey, I'm Randy Saff, class of '98. Professor Evans was a professor of mine, a mentor. He had the great advice of when I told him I want to start a company, he said, "You need the juice. You need the juice." And that's essentially what it sounds like he's going to be talking to everybody else about, getting the juice. Started an anti-piracy company almost right out of college with Octavio Herrera, who's also a mentor on here. Sold that in 2005. Started one of the first iPhone gaming companies in 2008. Probably the only stat my kids will care about is we had 14 of the first 100 free iPhone games. Used those free install games, got a ton of downloads, millions of downloads when there was only 3 or 4 million iPhones in the wild. And we eventually pivoted / launched one of the largest mobile ad networks called Ad Colony. Currently, I have a independent game studio called Lucid Sight with Octavio and some other guys. We have 2 games. We have an MLB license and a Star Trek license for a space MMO we actually launched yesterday called CSC. I encourage everybody to play that. And the shtick to those games is digital ownership using Ethereum, so it's blockchain. And the challenge we're really trying to crack right now is performance install on PC. You know, how do you drive installs on a PC game? Because that seems to be a solved problem on mobile and is not a solved problem on PC. And we think we have some solutions for that.
All right. That's how I cut you off. I move to the next slide. I gotta have some playoff music.
Hi, everybody. I actually don't have much to add on background because I've started every company with Randy. But I will say I graduated from Occidental College in '98 physics, met Randy at our first job, and that's how our entrepreneurial journey started together. The only thing I'll add to what Randy said, you know, we've started a bunch of companies, as he said, had some success. You know, I like to think that I can help out with sales, whether that be raising capital, which really is a sales process, and or customers, and all sorts of operational startup type advice. Pretty good at, pretty not stingy with that. Everything from writing business plans to, you know, legal operations and accounting and stuff like that. That's kind of necessary, but you shouldn't have to pay a bunch of money for that stuff. It's pretty standard. So always happy to help with that. And then, yeah, Randy and I have a pretty good network of investors that we're always happy to introduce people to when it's time to raise capital.
Thanks. Dallas, unmute.
Hello. So I went to Harvey Mudd, graduated in '97, just ahead of Josh. We started DreamHost, which wasn't originally hosting, but it turned into that in the very beginning of the early days of the web. I'm still part of that, though I don't work on it day-to-day anymore. I'm very interested in music production. I've started doing some angel investing. I do some music tech investments, but I haven't done as much. More recently, I started working on VR, trying to use it for data visualization and understanding infrastructure, things like that. And then even more recently now I'm working on a video happy hour type of thing, like better than Zoom for happy hours. And that's, I guess, in a working prototype type phase. So if anyone wants to play with it, let me know. We do test parties, we call them. And what do I know? I know some stuff about web infrastructure, some things about design, graphic, not really graphic UI a little bit. There's probably people better here than me than that. I don't know.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dallas. Chris.
All right. Sorry, I think I'm unmuted. So I went to Harvey Mudd 2010. As alluded to earlier, I did the Robert Day Scholar Program through CMC, stuck around in a master's in finance, decided to kind of I wouldn't say throw out the Harvey Mudd degree, but decided to move up to wine country and learn how to grow grapes. So I've been growing grapes, making wine for the last, 9-ish years. And now make a ton of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, distribute across the world at really high-end restaurants, have a huge wait list, and pretty much have stayed in touch with Harvey Mudd ever since. And I'm a chair of the networking committee for the Alumni Board of Governors. What else? I started a restaurant in Oakland a while back. Don't recommend opening restaurants, especially not now, obviously. And about to join a wine delivery company as a founder and raise some money and help basically create white glove deliveries for high-end wines. I think that's about it.
Chris, we got Josh Webb.
Howdy, I'm Josh, Harvey Mudd 05. Let's see, I grew and sold I guess a variety of early stage technology companies under the umbrella of an organization called Idea Lab in Pasadena. After, I guess, a final sale there, I pretty much ventured out on my own as a bit of a consultant, sort of doing consulting with very early stage companies, getting them sort of prepped for fundraising. Did sort of diligence and deal flow for early stage investors, and then also sort of had a practice related to getting kind of corporate organizations to sort of kind of self-disrupt or self-innovate internally. I did that through, let's see, the end of 2014. And at that point, I had met a girl from New Orleans, and you guys may not be aware of this, but you meet a girl from New Orleans, and they say eventually you end up there. And so here I am. They're both screaming around, and she's chasing my 18-month-old out there. So life is pretty good. It's humid. It's hot. But right now I do, let's see, new product development for a privately held company here in New Orleans. It's well capitalized. We make quick decisions and work on pretty cool stuff. So it's everyday fun.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Got Marty.
What's up? What am I? I was class of 03 in CS at Harvey Mudd. I was a founding engineer at Pinterest. That's how I got all this gray hair, well, mostly here. Then I went off from that, and I was Reddit's first CTO in 2016, which was a mess. And so my job was to basically kickstart the company and build it from scratch. And we did that. And after that, I needed a good break. So we moved out to Charlottesville. And we're starting kind of a hobby farm. But I'm kind of on permanent sabbatical from the engineering world, but I'm advising a bunch of startups. My favorite little sweet spot to advise, if you're interested, is on companies that have hit traction. So they're about 150 people, and they're hitting Series B and Series C and growing rapidly. And I generally advise on how to manage, how to construct orgs, how to do reorgs, how to hire, how to fire. So it's kind of a big subject, because usually around 100 companies don't know what the hell they're doing, and they don't know that they're doing it poorly. So I'm also writing a book on that, trying to at least, it's basically around building product and engineering from zero to IPO. And then I'm chasing 3 kids around and building a hobby farm. And I just learned that a whole bunch of our chickens we just got eaten by a snake. So I'm going to go fix that next. And that's me.
In the horse group. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Marty.
Yeah, the chicken group.
Hey everyone, I am John Schwartz. I graduated from Harvey Mudd in 2013. And before I graduated, with the huge amount of help from Prof. Evans, and then later on Josh Jones, started my first company, layer by layer, with a couple classmates. And we went through Y Combinator back in the summer of 2013. And then pretty shortly after coming out of that, sold that company to MakerBot. We wrote software for 3D printers kind of right around the time that 3D printers were blowing up in the States. And after that, I kind of joined back up with my co-founders and started my last company, Voodoo Manufacturing, where we built a high volume 3D printing factory and ended up even making other types of medical devices and all sorts of products. And, you know, with Voodoo, we kind of grew to a larger size than we were with my first business. We raised $8 million. So, you know, we've been through kind of a lot of the fundraising process, or at least early stage fundraising. And just recently I'm coming off of that, and, you know, now kind of taking some time to explore some ideas, working on a new product, fully custom transparent face masks. Seems like something that people can use right now. And so we're starting to sell those under brand True Contour. And yeah, you know, just happy to help, you know, as many people as I can around, you know, kind of early product development all the way through fundraising and kind of, you know, picking up traction.
All right. Thanks, John. Matt?
Hey, I'll just add a little bit to what I mentioned before. So my day job is working at Skyview Ventures. We're a family office venture capital firm. We also do private equity buyouts. So I can talk to financing from early stage up through later stage buyouts. Also previously worked at Sony Pictures and corporate development, so know a lot about strategic buyers and how to put together business plans and that kind of thing. And as I also mentioned, I'm part of Techco's Angels, which is the largest angel group in the country. It has around 300 accredited investors in the pool. And as you guys progress, if you start raising money, it's a good way to present to this Shark Tank type environment and raise capital. There's a company recently called Ready Set Food, a Pomona entrepreneur. He was on Shark Tank about 2 months ago. He just raised money from Mark Cuban and Techco's Angels. And we've got another company in the cannabis space about to go public in Canada in the next 2 weeks, so that'll be exciting. And we've got another company called Super Coffee that was founded by 3 brothers out of their college, not at Claremont College, but they were also on Shark Tank, didn't raise money on Shark Tank, but then went on to recently close a $200 million valuation from InBev and Pepsi. So can help provide some guidance in those areas.
All right. Thanks, Matt. We got Michael Blend. You on?
Hi, everybody. Let's see. I'll try to be brief. I like to talk about myself. I've been founding companies for about 25 years, ever since I got out of grad school. And I've sold several of them. I was involved in taking one of them public. And I have never actually raised seed capital or venture capital for any of my businesses. So I might be interesting to talk to if you aspire to do that. I highly recommend it. I have raised later stage capital. My current company is called System One. We're about 300 people. We've raised around $300 million for that one. And aside from, I'm the chairman there, so I'm not operationally active anymore. I am helping him. I'm involved with Michael Dell's private equity fund, which is $1 billion private equity fund. Recently started doing that. And then, but probably most relevant maybe for this course, I teach entrepreneurship at both USC and UCLA. So have some background working with a lot of students and look forward to hopefully mentoring and encouraging people to take the entrepreneurship path if it's for you.
All right. Thanks, Michael. We got Bob. Ready?
Here we go. Hi, Bob Wilson, class of 96/97. I was one of the last master's candidates at HMC. I am kind of the opposite of an entrepreneur. I'm a lawyer. But I work with entrepreneurs, so I think I'm sort of like a vice mentor in my role. I can help you out, but not from the legal standpoint. Actually advise some of the people who are mentors here, including Voodoo. See here, so my practice is, I was an engineer at Harvey Mudd, went to law school. I've been a patent attorney for the last 20 years of patents, trademarks, copyrights, all kinds of intellectual property. I've litigated. I spent most of my time though building patent portfolios for people. I represent a lot of startup companies. Fenwick & West is one of the big Silicon Valley law firms. We incorporated Apple. We took Facebook public. We're sort of the Forrest Gump of Silicon Valley, if you will. I have a really long tail of clients, dozens and dozens of startups. One of the startups I started working with a long time ago was Facebook. I was Facebook's first patent attorney. I wrote the patent on the news feed and like button and all that stuff, all the way up to Oculus and other acquisitions. So hopefully I can help in my view or my role as an attorney here.
Thank you, Bob. Jason, next.
Hey everybody, so I'm Jason Beck. I was with Bob and was probably one of the last master's classes at Harvey Mudd. Good times there. I spent about a decade in technical and operating roles in a number of startup companies down in San Diego. That culminated with taking a company called Entropic Communications public in 2006, not that old, at like a $400 million valuation. Was kind of thinking about kind of next steps at that point in my career, interested in investing, doing some stock picking on my own. That was going well. And so kind of transitioned, went to business school, UCLA, and then transitioned into my current role at a private equity fund, here in Los Angeles. I kind of have sort of two jobs at the moment. One is kind of with the private equity fund where we invest in later stage. So for those of you who don't know, private equity is kind of like the later stage version or later stage cousin of venture capital investing. We focus on growth businesses that have sort of 10 to 30 million in annual revenue. Typically they're mildly profitable to robustly profitable. And then my partners and I, our skill sets are all around kind of scaling businesses. And so we take those companies and try to build them to 50 or $100 million revenue businesses. And then we typically sell them to strategic buyers that we usually play a role in kind of sourcing and cultivating relationships with along the way. My second role is, when COVID hit, I had stepped into one of our companies to prep it for sale. And that transaction obviously got postponed. Our partnership, my partners and I decided to part ways with the management team there. And I've taken over as CEO of a $30 million healthcare company headquartered on the East Coast. And that's kind of, my sort of most of where my days are spent these days.
All right. Thanks, Jason. We got Eric Johnson. Are you on?
I'm on.
All right.
Hey, hi everyone. Eric Johnson, class 84. Engineer for about 15 years, started a company. I always remember my company started because a month later is when the NASDAQ bubble popped. So whatever year that was. And so that company was acquired and I've been an angel investor ever since. Been involved with the HMC incubator for a couple of years now. Involved with a couple of companies right now actively and wrote a book, Gary, and if you read it, you get to ride in the plane. So, book on economics. For someone who never took a class in economics. Anyway, that's about it.
Thanks, Eric. Cool. Morgan?
Hi, I'm Morgan, founder and CEO of Token Transit. Token Transit provides mobile ticketing solutions for public transit agencies. So we're helping modernize public transit with software. I went to Harvey Mudd, class of 2008, computer science, which is why I'm here. Yeah, so excited to be helping out and talking with people. I'm pretty experienced running an early stage company. Went through Y Combinator in 2017 and currently have about 120 public transit agency customers across the US and Canada and provide ticketing to about 250,000 riders.
Nice. Thanks, Morgan. We got Tony. You ready?
Hi, I'm Tony Lee, 82, class of 82. Out of grad school, I got into computer networking, joined a late stage startup called Cisco Systems. From there, went to another startup called Juniper Networks. I was the founding engineer there. And so far, I've done a bunch of other little startups and other companies around the Bay. Total of 8 different startups. I've raised $300 million and been founder on 2 of them.
Very nice. Thanks, Tony. We got Avi. Is he here? He's here.
I'm now unmuted.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, Avi Geiger. So I was at Microsoft for a number of years, worked on various consumer hardware and other hardware. Founded Pico Brew as the CTO. I ran all the engineering, manufacturing, logistics. And so a few things in addition to fundraising, we did a lot of work with strategic investors in addition to kind of the general venture capital and private office type of investors. And so we can talk about that, and also just all the ins and outs of running a hardware company in terms of manufacturing, logistics, and supply chain, all the good and bad. We acquired one of our own manufacturing partners. We developed tons of custom machinery, shipped units all over the world, and ran a service, including ingredients kits for them. And now I'm helping a handful of small companies with early product development and looking at some new things.
All right. Thanks, Avi. I don't think your partner in Rabbit Group is on. Andrew, you here? Beep, boop, bop. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we got some floaters. We'll be in there with Rabbit. All right. Blant. Brian Bogue, your name was too long for the slide.
Good work, Josh. Good work. Hi, everybody. I'm Brian. I'm a Canadian living in Panama. I've been an entrepreneur since about 1999. I've founded or co-founded several companies. I'm an advisor, board member, investor, and still an entrepreneur. But I really don't know why. I've seen washed out failure. I've experienced great success. I suspect I can answer many of your questions. I was introduced to Harvey Mudd when I was hired as a VP at DreamHost. While at DreamHost, I worked with the smart founder, Sage Weil, no offense, Josh, no offense, Dallas, and co-founded Ink Tank with Sage, and that turned out to be one of the successes. I'm currently working on a totally different type of startup. It's a unique destination in paradise called Manglefish Studios. It's in its early stages, but there's an initial website. It's up. Feedback's welcome. We're about to go out for funding later in September, so fun. But I want to thank Josh for agreeing to hold the spring 2022 HMC Kick Off at Manglefish Studios instead of Zoom. That's good. Thanks for doing that, Josh. It's great to get involved with HMC Inc. again. I'm looking forward to working with Mudders again, but again, I don't know why.
Thanks, Brian. How you here?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Hao, and HMC class of 17. Well, I guess I don't have a long resume. I started the company right after college, Bumblebees, and we're the first class of HMC Inc. So right now we are using a new type of concrete to build next generation CNC tools. To summarize, we can make it better, cheaper, and faster. So I guess I haven't experienced much success yet, but I can certainly help with hardware like early development, and I guess some advice on the seed stage fundraising. Well, just like feel free to shoot me any questions. I just don't promise I know the answer.
Nobody does. Thanks, Al. Vi knows the answers.
Hi, I'm Vi. Harvey Mudd class of 2017. I think it was actually the first company that HMC Inc. invested in with Zenith Robotics, which I founded with another alum and a professor. We started with pro-level sports analytics from Any Video, and then turned into a little bit more of a consulting house working on robotics and AI projects for other companies. Since then, I went to grad school, went to CMU, and now I'm working on spinning out some drone technology we developed as part of the DARPA Subterranean Challenge here at CMU. So bootstrapping that company, so I'd be happy to talk about how you can get non-recurring engineering funding and ways to start a company without raising VC money off the bat.
All right, thanks. And somehow I was able to fit Vi's name in. That's funny. Pat.
Hi, Pat McLaughlin. Nice to meet you all. I was at Harvey Mudd and Claremont Graduate School in 1978 and 79, degrees in math. My entrepreneurial background is very different from everybody else who's talked so far. I'm strong in AI and machine learning, and especially robotics. And I've worked on many, many advanced concepts programs for DARPA. So we've got a lot of successful products. And I consider my strengths to be, how to convert the AI machine learning technology into practical products and how to explain those, how to produce messaging for customers. Happy to help anybody who has interest in those areas.
Thank you very much, Pat. We got Nate.
Hey, I'm Nate Dager. I've been making stuff with Josh for, I guess, like 20 years. I was one of the first employees at DreamHost. Josh and Dallas were my bosses. After I managed the technical teams there, I just left and started a cloud hosting company called ChunkHost, which did okay, except it started taking Bitcoin as a payment method in 2013, and we didn't sell it, which worked out pretty good. Although I guess I'm kind of a cryptocurrency pessimist now. But I'm a good person to go to if you need help making anything for the web or building a backend API for a mobile app. And if you have any code that's like running on a laptop and needs to like go out into the world and run in production, I'm a good person to talk to.
Sergey, I was trying to unmute myself by pressing the space bar, but it doesn't work when you're in present mode. All right, Sergey.
Hello, I'm Sergey. Can you guys hear me? Cool. So I graduated from Harvey Mudd 09 and that's when I met Josh. He hired me at the career fair to work for DreamHost, and that was pretty cool. But I'd started a small company while I was in college, running World of Warcraft servers, not entirely legally, and that was making quite a bit of money, so I left. And that led to a variety of other projects. I worked with Josh and Nate, who you just heard from, again at ChunkHost, their cloud hosting startup, for a few years, and moved on. And most recently, I was in the first class of HMC INQ with Hao and Vi that you've already heard from. And there, my company was Arc Servers, doing game server hosting for mostly this one game called Arc Survival Evolved, which is luckily extremely popular. So that went pretty well, and I'm still doing that. So my background is about the same as Nate's: web applications, servers, databases, like web APIs, PHP, Python, like Ruby, all that kind of stuff. If you need any help, and I am there.
Thanks, Sergey. Dimitri? He got confused because Benson already went.
Yeah. My name is Dimitri. I'm a class of 2011, co-founder of Work Patterns. We're building a modern toolkit for managers to have better one-on-ones, give recognition, and provide feedback. HMC INQ, I went through HMC INQ in 2018 with my co-founder, Noah Duncan. And since then, we've raised a seed round and are now fine-tuning our SaaS metrics to look good for a Series A. In terms of like how I can be valuable to HMC INQ participants, most of my career has been around like product and growth in early stage startups. I love getting my hands dirty. I'm an engineer as well. I love talking strategy, finding signal in your search for product market fit, and then honing your value prop and kickstarting early growth.
Thank you, Dimitri. We got Benson already went, and now we have some special sort of floating mentors here. Raul.
Hi, Josh. Thank you very much. Graduated from Harvey Mudd in '97, degree in engineering. Went straight to law school and became a patent attorney. And now I have my own solo practitioner law firm. Focus mostly on small to medium-sized businesses, helping them really tailor their IP strategy to not only their budgetary constraints, but also their business goals, both short, medium, and long term. I do counsel as outside counsel for big corporations like Qualcomm and Kyocera. So I kind of run the gamut, but I find most interesting in helping small to medium-sized business really get in there and help them strategize. So looking forward to working with you all.
Thanks. There we go. Tom.
Yeah, hey, my story is similar to Raul's. I graduated in 2003 from Mudd with an engineering degree and went straight to law school. I now have my own practice in Phoenix, and we service clients anywhere from independent inventors up to about $200 million companies and patents and trademarks.
All right. Thanks, Tom. And we got Raymond. You on? Yeah.
So I am. So I'm co-founder of a marketing agency called DV Labs, founded in 2013. We work with startup companies, including we've done in the past, Pressable, Hello Bello, Smart Technologies, and a number of Shark Tank companies. I barely passed STEM back in one graduate in 2003, so probably not the best person to talk to about engineering. But if you want help, soft skills, or marketing advice, I'm happy to see what type of value I can add. So looking forward to contributing to this talented group of individuals.
All right. Rick, you happen to be on? He said he would come on sometimes, floating.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's here. Right.
Yeah. So I'm Rick O'Toole. I'm a 2010 math major. I'm co-founder and CTO of Rockerbox. We're a company that basically helps e-commerce brands build out data pipelines for their marketing architecture and build models to help them make marketing decisions. Previously worked as the solo tech lead at an early startup, and then also as product manager at a later startup that eventually got sold. But yeah, right now I'm operator full-time, CTO, and kind of doing a lot of engineering work. So if you have questions around data, systems architecture, product market fit, those are probably best geared that I could help answer with.
All right. Thanks, Rick. And last but not least, Malus.
Hey, I'm Malus, class of 2012. I was a chemistry major at Mudd and then bailed on grad school because it was terrible. I participated in HMC INQ in 2018 with Dimitri. Started out with a social activism app to try to get people more engaged in like the election and doing like volunteer work. And then we ended up pivoting to a restaurant app to help people find like recommendations for places to go. Partnered with a lot of like with a couple of credit card companies and hotel chains. And before COVID, we're gonna sell to one of the credit card companies, and then everything kind of got put on hold. But yeah, helping out. And I just added everyone to Slack, so everyone should be getting an invitation in the next like 2 minutes. That's me.
Thanks, Malus. Malus is also a mega mentor like me and Gary, and a floating mentor, and not assigned to a pod, but helpful for everyone. Okay, so in theory, the plan was to do pod breakouts now, but I don't think we've got time. So we're gonna go straight into 5-minute intermission or 3-minute intermission, and then come back and talk a little bit about entrepreneurship isn't for you. Mentors can chime in, people can ask Q&A in the chat, and then we'll do our one big pod breakout. Not one big, but not do 2 sessions of pod breakouts, just one, because it's already 1:30. So, sounds good. Intermission. And I'll play some music here. What shall I play?
Isn't there some SpongeBob song for this?
Yeah. The best day ever? Let's see.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the one you're thinking of. No, I have one ready to go. Here we go. Have you guys heard this? Let's see. Do, 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 do. This is about the right amount of time. When this song is over, the intermission is over. All right, how do I stop this thing? My computer can't handle it. There we go. Oh, one more time. No. All right, let's get back over here. Oh, not over here. Over here. Oh no, my pet peeve. Spoilers. I was trying to find you, Avi. All right. We're back. We're back. 5 minutes behind schedule and no pod breakout. Pretty good. I have no idea how long this talk thing is, so I'm going to just try and go extra fast. There's a lot crammed in here. Deep stuff. Okay. Just like Boger's Burger, entrepreneurship doesn't fit on it cannot be encapsulated in one slide or easily spelled. So, quick answer, the TLDR, yes, it's for you. What are you doing here? Of course it's for you. Don't listen to Gary. It's for everybody. We all are entrepreneurs. Because what is entrepreneurship? According to Wikipedia, it's the creation or extraction of value. I say hogwash. It is the creation of value. Let's not extract value. It's true, you can extract value, but this is actually an important part of this. There's ways to make money. There's zero-sum ways to make money, and there's non-zero-sum ways to make money. And generally speaking, if you're in a sort of fair democracy, capitalist society, the way to get wealthy is more about creating value, hopefully. And that's the goal. And I think it's important to sort of frame this discussion, because I'm going to say some stuff that might sound a little overly capitalistic and not like, what about doing good? But my whole thesis is, if you're doing capitalism and creating value, not extracting value, you are doing good, because the way you create value is you make things people want. And you can create value. It's not like energy. There's no conservation of value. You can create wealth and you can create value. You're not, one person doesn't win because someone else has to lose. That can happen. There are various businesses that are based on that, but it doesn't have to be. And another thing, value does not equal energy, not only because of conservation of energy, but also because the amount of work you do does not equal the amount of value you are creating. This is a key point in being a successful entrepreneur. And really, I'm going to teach, this is just a life lessons here. The 80-20 rule applies to everything, right? 20% effort, 80% of the results. The contrapositive of that, 80% of the effort can give you 20% of the results. So you're going to be, what, 16 times more efficient than people who are doing the last 80% effort to get that last 20% results? They're doing 4 effort for 1 result. You're doing 1 effort for 4 result. So you're doing 16 times better. Value does not equal energy put in, does not equal value that comes out. And the point is to work smart, right? Not hard. I also want to say, for this whole talk, anybody who wants to unmute, throw anything in, or let me look at the chat. I'll keep the chat open here. Anything? So, good question, entrepreneurship. What is the goal? I don't know if anybody read or watched any of the movies or videos from the email that we sent before, but the big takeaway from the book that I like the most, The Founder's Dilemmas, right, is the rich versus king. There are pretty much 2 reasons people want to start their own companies or be entrepreneurs, really. There's a lot of little reasons, but there are 2. One is to get rich, and one is what they call to be king, you know, be your own boss, right? And it's fun to be your own boss. And those are the top 2 reasons, and the rest are kind of like way behind. So my argument here, entrepreneurship isn't for you. It is, you should be going for one of these, which is rich. Like I said before, it's, the goal needs to be get rich or die trying. And it's just because being a king is not, it's not a valid goal, really. It means that you don't want to listen to other people, right? You want to be your own boss. And that's not how you create value. You create value in our planet by listening to other humans and doing what they say and making what they they mean. So, all right, I've got a good yeah, Tony. Let me we narrow that down some. I guess in terms of, obviously everybody wants both, right? You want to get rich and be king, have it all. But the problem is there's tension between that. You usually have to give up some resources, or, you know, to get resources. So you want a chance to get a bigger company, you're selling shares, you're having co-founders, you're doing things that kind of take away your power. You're making deals with other people. No one has like full autonomy if you're not Superman, where you can just, I can kill anyone with my eyes. You've always got someone you're beholden to. So just having the mindset of like, I just want to be my own boss and do my own thing will eventually relegate you to, you know, the data center. or something like that, where you're king of your own castle down there. And then the other thing is, like, let's say you don't, I don't want to be rich. I want to do good. Well, a life lesson I sort of learned from my dad said this at one point. He went to Harvey Mudd also. He was a mathematician. He got a PhD. He joined the Foreign Service, and he wanted to, help the country. And it's interesting and it's exciting. And he did really well. He became an ambassador. He did a lot of things that I think it's had a bigger impact on the world than most companies. Oh, hello.
Is that the link?
And
Yeah.
boop. That's not the right link right now. I share this link with different people. That's funny. I got to open up that waiting room again, I guess. Anyway, he said though that what happens is if you get successful in like your career, if it's a government career or sort of a serving thing, and then you retire and you go into business and you start to get make wealth, that people always assume that you're somehow trading your connections or doing something illegal or corrupt. Whereas if you go the other way and you start in the private world and get successful, and then you make the switch into sort of public policy or helping the world, you're known as a philanthropist, right? Like Bill Gates gets super rich and then decides what he wants to do as king. If you go the other way around, you're known as a sellout, where you start with your art. Eventually you start to be like, I need to get rich. And then people say, oh, look, he sold out. He sold out. So how do you get rich? It's the same thing for business and personally. So kind of tying in this whole entrepreneurship with investing and personal finance. And the key is two things: leverage and compounding. So leverage and compounding is the kind of thing that when I took Professor Evans' class, he said, first thing, buy a house, dollar cost average into an index fund and buy a house. So that's not really the kind of leverage I'm talking about. I mean, buying a house is good because you put down 20% or 15% or 10%. And then if it goes up 5%, you've got a 50% or 25% return. And that's the kind of leverage that usually people think about when they're talking about investing and making money. But I mean a different kind of leverage. So first I'm going to do a quick little Econ 101 lesson, right? Everybody is familiar with supply and demand curves and where those intersect, there's a price of goods that sort of clears. Well, what happens when there becomes more demand for something? Not that the price has changed and it moves up and down the demand curve. There's more demand for something because whatever, the world has changed. Then the demand curve moves and there becomes a new equilibrium point, and the price will go up if the supply curve hasn't changed, and the quantity out there that's supplied will go up. But what if there's a type of thing where the price what if the demand is a function of the price, right? If there's a feedback loop between the demand going up, causing the price to go up, causes there to be more demand, you get another level of demand, and then that feeds in, the price goes up some more, and it keeps going and going, and that's sort of where you get speculative bubbles and things like that. What does this have to do with leverage? People show these sort of nice curves, and the problem is they never really show you, and it's really hard to find out what the actual numbers are on these curves. So if if the demand goes up, how much? And I bought Apple stock or something like that, or I've started my company and all of a sudden there's more demand for this new invention or service that my company provides, then what is the price? What's going to happen to the price? Well, I found that there's an interesting different sort of supply and demand curve. This is my own thinking here. I don't know if this is widely understood, but what about very illiquid markets? Like what about your company getting acquired? Or what about like certain houses in a very small area. It's a weird supply and demand curve when you're looking at very illiquid markets. So there are ones where there's still an intersection, and then if the demand goes up, you might end up with the same price because you haven't really hit this limit. But typically in very liquid markets, there's sort of a level where if the demand goes too high, it's not even clear. Like the price just sort of goes infinite. It's essentially there's an inflection point. It's actually what's more important when deciding on these things is the price is really, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? It's not really this like curve or things. It's just, is there more supply or demand? And then it can just flip, and the price changes are insane. You know, you'd imagine that just like a little more demand for something would make the price go up a little bit, but it's really sort of a step function where as long as there's enough supply for certain things that cannot be, more supply cannot easily be created, the price will go up slowly. But as soon as that demand just outstrips the supply, it becomes a buyer's market and the price can just go up exponentially. And the vice versa, where a little bit of a drop of demand results in more supply than demand, it becomes, well, a seller's market. I think I'm using the wrong phrase here. Anyway, price can drop exponentially. So the key takeaway though from all this is you want to be selling when other people are buying. You want to be buying when other people are selling. And how you do that, you have to predict the future. So unfortunately, that's easier said than done. Even Charlie Munger of Warren Buffett fame, Berkshire Hathaway, with the same problem as everyone else. It is very hard to predict the future. So how do you get rich? You predict the future correctly. How do you predict the future correctly? Well, here's some tips, okay? 1, be a contrarian. You don't want to be the one following everything. This is a t-shirt I actually used to have. One time I wore it to the Getty Villa, and one of the guards saw it and he looked at me and he said, "Contrarian." I loved it and I never wore it again. But yes, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. Be a contrarian, you know, think of things from first principles. Just don't follow. Like once that demand starts to go, you know, sometimes you can ride a little bit of momentum up or something. And it sounds like I'm talking about investing, but it's companies too. You see it whenever people start companies, it's like these fads of companies. There's one company that starts, you know, a Bitcoin exchange. It does really well. There's 100 more companies jumping in. It's like one of those might work out, but you want to be the one who's selling when everyone else wants to buy, not buying when everyone else is buying, and then selling when everyone else is selling. You know, once everyone's so scared and they've sold it all, maybe you want to buy. Maybe there's something there, maybe not. So how do you develop being a contrarian? This is just a nice little slide from this Wait But Why website I like, of sort of the path people go through, where they start out as kids or college freshmen or whatever, very excited, feel like they've got everything figured out. Everyone seems like they know what's going on. The world seems very clear. Then they get a little bit of humility. They realize that they don't know anything and everyone else seems to know everything. Then they build up some confidence and realize that nobody knows everything or nobody knows anything, essentially. And it's okay to just be the one person who's whatever, buying Bitcoin when no one else has heard of it or thinks it's anything, or the one person who's starting a rocket company when no company's ever really done it before, that kind of stuff. Even once you've got that, it takes a little while. You have to get over this sort of fear to really become enlightened, where you have the feeling that everyone else doesn't know anything, you don't know anything, and no one else knows anything, but you still just haven't really internalized it. And then after a while, hopefully you get to that sort of enlightened stage where it's okay, no one knows anything. We're all just making it up and try and have fun. So the other solution for what to do if you can't really predict the future is you could just be fast instead. There's the whole fast followers, right? There are those 100 companies that jump into, cannabis the day after. But some of them jump in 6 months after, and some of them literally jump in the day after. And it's not too late to get some leverage when you pick up on a trend a little bit earlier than everyone else. It all comes down to it's a question of degrees. Here's a good quote I like, Ralph Waldo Emerson. It says, "When skating on thin ice, our safety is in our speed." I don't think this is true like physics wise, but it feels true in terms of like when you're a startup, don't think, do as many things as you can. Keep doing till you find something that works and do it some more. In fact, Y Combinator, Paul Graham, founder of Y Combinator. Okay, good. It is true. Thanks, Dan. It says, a startup is just a company designed to grow fast. By growing fast, you create leverage because you're the one who's now selling a little bit before everybody realizes they want to be buying, whatever it is. All right, the other part, compounding. I'm going to go with another Berkshire Hathaway quote here. Warren Buffett has his humility. "My wealth has come from a combination of living in America, some lucky genes, and compound interest." This is just, it sounds like it's a investing thing. So here's a little thing I whipped up last night. This is different log scales of the price of Bitcoin. This is, if you just look at sort of the picture, the shape, it's sort of a fractal, right? You look at the 10-minute chart, and then you look at the 1 hour chart, and you look at the 3 hour chart, a 12-hour chart. I mean, you could tell a little bit it's a longer time scale just because there's a little higher resolution, but the general shapes just sort of look like random motions. This is a 1-day chart, so it was a bad day. This is a 3-day chart, it's kind of a bad 3 days. This is a 7-day chart. They're all sort of random, but in any of these time periods, right, you could do like a quick 10-minute trade. You could do a quick day trade. You could do a 3-day thing. You could do like, I think this week, you could hop in and hop out. Maybe you shorted it right here. Maybe you bought back or whatever. You could do a month-long trade. Here's a month chart. You could do a 6-month. You could do a 2-year. You could do the 10-year trade. And I'm not saying that you're going to do it right. Maybe you shorted it here and you tried to buy it back at the end. But the thing that's different between all these charts, they're all sort of random patterns in a way. But look at the scale on the right. I'm not sure how easy it is to go back. Yeah. Look at the scale. You make one good 10-minute trade, right? It's like you could have made, these are in thousands of dollars. So maybe you made $20, or maybe you levered it up and you made $200 or $2,000, right? You do a good 1 hour trade, it's kind of the same. A 3 hour, you look at your 12 hours. Oh, look, I could have made like, $600, right? You look at your 24 hours. Oh, I could have made $1,000 just by buying right here, selling here, whatever, times whatever your scale is. But you get out the 7-day, yeah, you're like $2,000. I could have shorted it right at the top. I would have bought it back right at the bottom. 30-day, same sort of thing. You get to the 6-month, right? You're like, whoa, I could have actually bought it at, like, if I really nailed it, $5,000 or $4,000 and sold it. I could have made, triple my money in 6 months or something. 2 years is sort of similar. But once you get to the 10-year, like decade trades, you make one good decade trade in your life. Like, you can have all the great day trades or week trades or year trades, but you're not going to get a 1,000x on it or 100x. It's really hard to get 100x on a day trade, right? But all you need is one of those in your life. You get one decade trade correct, you could easily, and of course Bitcoin is like, oh, it's the greatest. Yeah, Bitcoin, sure, that ship has sailed. Netflix is 100, I think their last decade, they've done over 300x. Apple, Tesla, like regular stuff. You hold it for 10 years, the compounding kicks in and you're done. You need one decade trade in your life. 1 day trade, 1 month trade. It's a nice story to talk about, but it's not it's not a career. But how do you compound within a company? That's investing wise. It's not the same thing exactly, right? I'm trying to talk about entrepreneurship and starting companies, but I'm trying to say these are all the same thing. And what's your goal? If your goal is to be wealthy, then so that you can affect the world better and do more interesting things and have a more positive impact and whatever, they're all two sides of the same coin. I think the key to compounding with a company is not giving up. That's why we say get rich or die trying. So quoting Gary here, enjoy yourself. Like, you know, have a company you care about that you're gonna be okay doing for a decade or 20 years with people that you enjoy doing it with. And really starting a company is investing. I mean, it's the same thing, right? You're just putting not just your money into it, you're putting your time into it. And time is the most, you know, valuable thing for all of us, except for you freshmen. And it really is time is money. And as time goes on, you understand that more as you have more money and less time. But also in terms of thinking about it, when you are starting a company, would you invest? Here's a good question. Like, would you invest in this company if it wasn't started by you? You know, when you're trying to think about what company to start or what you're doing, like, let's just say you heard about this company. Would you want to maybe invest in it if it wasn't your own idea? If you're just excited about the whole market and you just think there's so many opportunities, then that's a good sign. Like we started DreamHost because the internet, we didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't do web hosting for the first year and a half, maybe, or, you know, we were just trying different things on the internet. We just knew the internet. If someone had come to me and said, hey, we're going to do a bunch of internet ideas, I would have said, like, if I had any money back then, I said, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm in. I don't know if you're a good entrepreneur. So, you know, one thing I learned, the secret to my success, besides just sort of buying when other people are selling and selling when other people are buying, is just being in the right place at the right time. It's so much easier to be in a market that's just growing. Like, I feel like DreamHost, we made all the mistakes. We're like, I don't understand how that company worked out. You guys did everything wrong. You were like evolved in a totally different ecosystem from the rest of the business world. And yet you did fine. And whatever, we're a $50 million company now. And it's just like, well, we were right about the web being big and there was enough room for everybody. The other thing to make your company compound is you gotta always follow that 80-20 rule. You know, you gotta keep focusing on things that are important. Here's an interesting sort of thing. This is my own sort of rule that's like, when you're doing a company and even your own life, things that are plus or minus 30%, like even on prices and stuff, really don't matter. It's about that number at about 30% where it starts to matter, where you're like, if you're really arguing and you're like, I know this guy would be a great employee. I know he would just like, he or she, or they, you know, would just, our company would do so amazing if they were here, but, you know, I want to pay them 100 and they're asking for 125, you know, you're like, you got to really focus on things that move the needle. It's my move the needle GIF. Because in the end, here's a little chart on how money works. It's not linear, right? It's really exponential. Is that everything within like I call it a half an order of magnitude, right? So, oh, John, okay. All right, let me open up my, everything within an order of magnitude. Some people say that, right? Like, don't even worry about it if it's not going to make an order of magnitude. I think it's half an order of magnitude, like a 3x, 3.3x, where if you're not doing something that's going to triple your, you know, has the chance of tripling your business or tripling your net worth or tripling whatever your goal is, then you should keep looking at other things that could, because there are things that can do that. And they're somewhat long shots, but they're not as bad. And with that 80-20 rule, you know, you just want to be focusing on things that really move the needle. Here's a little chart I made, which is something I think about when you have something like, let's say you have 100% of your company, right? And you're adding a co-founder and you're like, I don't want to give up any equity, right? You're thinking about like rich and king. You're like, I want 100% of this company. I don't want to give up any equity. This person has 0%, right? You've got 100%. Well, what if you gave them 1%? Like, what does that do for you, right? You're the blue line here. You give up 1%, it makes a 1% difference, which is under that 30% sort of rule of really mattering. It's infinite. It goes off this, they have 0, so they go to 1. So then you're like, well, what if I gave them 2%? You've now doubled their effective interest and possible outcome and excitement. And what have you done? You've gone from 99 to 98. You've dropped another 1%. So you kind of see this chart here of how much like leverage there kind of is when you have this sort of situation. And it really starts around sort of 25 and 30. Once you're at 30%, you're like, I'm giving up 30% of my company. Maybe I shouldn't give up 25, right? It starts to be reasonable sort of numbers. But once you're getting to before 30%, it just doesn't matter really. Because in the end, okay, let's say you kept that last 25% of your company and the company does great and you sell and you end up with 20% more money one day. It's back to that other chart. It doesn't make a difference. 25% more money doesn't make a difference. Triple money makes a difference. I'd say even double is not making that much a difference. Getting to triple is where it starts to make a difference. So keep that in mind. I think that 30% kind of fits in with that triple, like it's 1/3 somehow.
Hey Josh, can I just interject very quickly?
Yeah.
And I think this is relevant because most people on this are undergrads and people want to be entrepreneurs. It's if you're a founder and your company does moderately well, it's almost impossible to not be successful enough that you're not going to materially change your life. So the hugest mistake that I see amongst founders, particularly first-time founders, is exactly what you talked about. You're worried about giving up equity. You're worried about who are the right investors. You can agonize over this thing when by far the most important thing to worry about is making your company worth something.
Yeah, it's 0 to 1, basically. Just you can always do your next company where you keep 100% equity and you're doing it right and whatever. Just trying to make it worth something. So, all right. So then that's sort of the rules. But what are the actual characteristics? So why is entrepreneurship right for you? And here's a good quote I like because I made it up myself. Any idea can be a bad idea with the right team behind it. So what makes the right team? What makes the right founders? I think I can narrow it down to these things. Again, I'm going back to that get rich or die trying. You got to have the desire, right? There's just that. And I keep saying like, what? It's so shallow, right? Your desire is to get rich. But again, it's in that framework of the desire to get rich should translate in a modern democracy of capitalism, of general fairness, to serving your customers and filling needs and going past your own idea of what's interesting maybe, or what's cool, or what you really want to work on, and actually getting it hammered home by like, do you want to work on this, or do you want to do the thing that people will pay you for and therefore is valuable to the world? So you have to have enough desire for that to get over your little like I desire to work on like my weird little pet projects and my hobbies, but it's overwhelmed by my desire to make tons of money. So the world can tell me the right answer and I will listen in the end. Two is
Hey Josh.
Yeah.
Sorry to interject. There's at least one person, maybe two, who got kicked off the call and want to get back in. Can you just like click that button real quick?
Waiting room now. So I deleted it. So anyone should be able to just try and get back in again, I think.
Cool, sounds good, thanks.
Thanks. Two, the leverage thing. And that is, there's also stuff they talk about, like Paul Graham, about there is leverage in terms of that's how you get, really rich. Like it's software gives you leverage, and having a company where you have people under you that are working, like, a lawyer, a doctor, it's hard for them to get leverage just no matter how highly paid you are per hour. If you're not getting any leverage, it's never going to get those exponential things. You need that exponential stuff, whether it's buying something that then becomes great in demand, or creating something that becomes great in demand, or having a lot of people under you, or having a software system that can just scale infinitely without any extra use of your time. ruthlessly focusing on that 80-20 rule. It's important in college. Harvey Mudd, I had a friend, she probably did 4 to 8 to 16 times as much work as I did. She ended up with like a 3.89. I ended up with a 3.3000. And when you graduate, they give you, at least back then, they give you with distinction at 3.3, and they give you high distinction at 3.9. And basically our transcript, it was like we both graduated with distinction. I made it by 3 decimal places, and she made it with an extra 599 basis points. She didn't have to spend those extra 4,000 hours of the last 4 years doing. Here's one I like to throw in that I also like, is a quote for Larry Wall: the 3 great virtues of a programmer, laziness, impatience, and hubris, also translate to, I think, the 3 great virtues of an entrepreneur, of a founder. Just in the fact that you have the hubris to believe you can do it, the laziness to get leverage and to focus on the 80-20 rule, and the patience, sort of the desire to actually go do stuff. Things I would add, I don't know if tenacity fits in with programmers, but I think that's the, if you don't give up, your company will never fail and you will succeed. You follow the 80-20 rule, you listen to other people, and you show up. 99% of life is showing up. You want to start a small business, answer the phone or respond to emails in 1 day, you're ahead of 99% of small businesses with tenacity. And then, got somebody.
I know, but
this is the part that programmers don't seem to need as much, but for entrepreneurs, empathy is the key. And that's empathy, not just in terms of one-on-one with people, but it's global empathy of really understanding customer needs and being able to respond to them, and getting outside your hubris a little bit and just saying, like, right, if I were in their shoes, I wouldn't care about that. That makes sense. I can be humble enough to just fix their problem and do it. These last 12 slides I'll go through really fast. They're all just a little focus on the empathy thing. There's 2 parts of the world I think of. There's sort of the arts and the sciences. Science is the hard tech, reality, math, what's actually happening, the free market, the invisible hand. Arts is the world where you throw humans on top of that, where there's relationships, and it's the world with humans on top. And basically programming and stuff like that, science, arts is sort of starting a business. If you have both, you're in the best of both worlds. And that's everything. It's sort of, putting humans on top of nature. It's free market, invisible hand versus planned economy. It's really building value and selling things versus speculating and trying to time the market and jumping out. It's, sales guys versus engineers. It's a funded company who's sold investors on a vision versus a profitable company that's actually doing business and surviving forever, making money. But, it's talking versus action. It's voting with your hands or voting with your feet and starting a competitor. Anyway, but you need all of those things, skills. And one little bit of final bonus advice before we'll get more into that in breakout pods is just launch. Start getting out there and hearing from your customers. You can't really get the empathy until you've launched and you've gone in front of customers. It's fun to think about ideas, but you got to do it. So any questions? Let's finally do the breakout pods we've been promising for all this time. Let's see if it works. And here's a quick guideline of the next 5 weeks. The classes will be generally focused around those things. So I'm going to stop the sharing. I'm going to start the breakout pods. Any questions before I do? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay. Thanks, everybody. Doing HMC Inc. Are we pushing people around? Hi. Is she taking her nap? I can move now. Let's see. Who's not in a pod? Unassigned. All right. Who's supposed to be in wrap? No. How do I do it? Oh, I see. Assign Dallas to ox. Assign the monkey. Assign to rabbit. Where'd rabbit go? Assigned to snake. Assigned to sheep. Benson, I'll put you in the dragon now. Assigned to tiger. Assigned to sheep. Oh my gosh. Assigned to rabbit. Assigned to horse. Oh, come on. Assign. Assign. Rabbit. Nate is in horse pod. Okay. Everybody who's still in this unassigned, please put your pod as your name. Let's see if you haven't done it, monkey. Put your first word in your thing as a, let's see, we got Sophie. What's your pod? Santiago. Hey, how's it going?
Oh, hey, Josh, it's Matt. I'm in sheep.
Huh?
Matt Thompson's in sheep.
Sheep, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? How do you know what your pod is? I'll look it up, Sophie. All right. Ox has 2 mentors.
Sophie is in dog.
Sophie is in dog. Who else we got here? Rex. Horse. All right.
Hey Josh, this is Ivan. Can you put me in the pig pod? Thank you.
All righty. You're in the big pod. Who we got left here? Nico.
Also pig, I think.
Oh yeah. Bonk. All right. Who you want to be with?
I think Rex is horse pod.
Who? Oh, I did it. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna put you in pig also. Boom. All right. The rest of us. Wait, Rex is still here? No. I was like, I signed him a long time ago.
No, he's still here.
Yeah, he's still here. Maybe he's the one who was sitting in the. Maybe he's not really here. Are you here, Rex? He's the one who has been sitting in the waiting room at the very beginning, like a half hour early. I think he's a bug, even though he's on the list. I'm gonna kick you, Rex. I'm gonna kick you, Rex. 5, 4, 3. I'm kicking Rex. Bye-bye, Rex. I tried to move him. He doesn't show up in the breakout rooms. Whatever. No, I won't kick him. All right. Hey, floaters, you guys want to join any random pods? How about you, Gary Maloose? How'd it go? Too long.
How do we do it?
I could put you in. I'll just decide whichever ones have the least people, like Rat. There's like nobody in Rat.
Okay, put me in rat.
Well, but then it's just going to be, we got 2 mentors and we got 2 students in Rat. So I don't know if they need more mentors. Maybe
We'll probably want to resort some of them.
Yeah.
I started in Slack to make like separate channels for each thing, and like I started with Rat, and there were very few people in Slack from the Rat group, so maybe that was a bad place to start.
Is there a assigned moderator or I guess quote unquote leader of each pod, or it's just kind of free for all? And
there are the mentors. We put a mentor in each one. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're kind of the leaders. Let me see. Well, pig, maybe I should be putting us in the ones that have the most people, or breaking them into horse 2 or something.
Put me in pig. I want to get out of pig once I want to get out. I got to stay there.
Pig. All right, Gary, going to pig.
Going to pig, all right.
Boop. I gotta move out of here now. You taking a nap, Pearl? Okay.
Maybe next time you can give someone else admin access as well, since you were like doing the lesson and it was hard for you to respond to things.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Not sure if does it let me give multiple people? I might have to upgrade. Let's see. Can I make you?
You can just only give someone else admin access if you want to do that instead.
Yeah, I guess so. You want to be? See if that's what it does.
I don't want it now.
You're the host. All right, yeah, I can change the host. Now you're the host. But am I still a host? Can I still assign people? Nope. Now I
I
can't.
am the host. All right. Should we put these people in other groups too?
Sure.
The course has a lot. Tom, do you want to be in horse group?
Sure.
I
Thanks.
don't know how to do that.
Some hosts you turned out.
Shut up. I'm gonna do it. There, done.
All right.
Or not. I don't know why you're still here. Oh, there you go. You're gone.
I guess, does it record the breakout rooms? I guess not.
All right. Are the other people in here actually in here?
I'm
Is
still
Rick-
here. I have
Okay.
about 10 minutes before I hop off.
Okay. Do you want to be?
I have you guys backgrounded, but I can be engaged for some period of time.
All right, I'm gonna put you in Rabbit. All right,
Can you take a
Raymond.
screenshot, Malus, of all the breakout rooms too, just so we have like an attendance,
Yeah.
so we can rejigger if necessary.
Yeah. Raymond, are you here?
I am here, yep.
All right. Do you want to be in a group?
Sure, for about 9 minutes now.
Yeah. Yeah, Josh. I think we gotta be a little more structured. I'm putting you into Snake.
Sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
This one had a lot of the intros and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I ran into something weird where I like invited like all 160 people into Slack, just like I copy pasted. And apparently there's a limit. Like if you invite a lot of people, like some percentage of them have to accept before you're allowed to invite anyone else ever again. And I was like, oh, I really wish I knew that beforehand. Because then I ended up being able to like give people the link. But
go.
let me take screenshots. And I'll just do one per.
If you want to set up the Tuesday lunch club thing, however you want to do it.
Okay.
Do it. You want to put me in a random pod?
Should I?
Sure.
I forgot where I put everyone. Let me. Okay. Yeah. Do I want to bring people back together at the end?
I mean, we can just to say, okay, goodbye, and thank you, see you next week, and you'll get an email.
I feel like if people want to stay in their pods, like if people are like, oh, I'm happy to talk for like an extra 30 minutes or something, maybe it's not the best idea to take them out of their.
Is it possible to like put a message on all the pods?
I don't know. I can join all of them and do that, but I don't. Yeah, maybe I'll just do that.
Yeah, maybe at 2:30 or whatever, you can just say, we're not. So right now I have a timer on the pods. I don't know if you can turn that off so they don't just end.
Do you know where you made the timer?
I think it's in the settings for the breakout rooms.
Broadcast and message to all. Okay. Well, I can do that, but if it's going to end, I don't know what to do.
An option there to not end it.
I can close all rooms, which is the opposite of what I want to do.
Right.
Yeah, there's a countdown that I see here, but I don't know how to affect it. There's 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just tell people that there's 20 minutes left. Hey, everyone.
You have to do that. I think there's a timer showing on there.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. We're not going to bring everyone together. Everyone, I don't know what to say.
Why don't we just wait till there's 5 minutes left and just say that or something?
Okay. Do you want me to put you in the thing?
Sure.
Where do you want to go?
You want to kick Rex?
I couldn't. I don't know how to do it.
Click on the 3 dots and I think it says like.
There are not 3 dots. There's move to.
Oh, not on there. No.
Oh, I see here. remove. Yes. Oops. Remove. Okay. Yeah, so I think maybe we should send an email out, maybe with like the Slack invite link, just in case someone's not on there. And then maybe I'll do like a Google form that's like, what are you most interested in getting out of this? Like, do you want to join the Tuesday lunch club? You'll be randomly assigned into a group, like on like Monday, if you say yes. And anything else?
Good.
Okay. All right, I'll put you in Ox. Rabbit. I'll put you in Rabbit.
Rabbit. You look like a rabbit.
All right, move to Rabbit.
Yeah, from Josh is here.
Hi.
Oh, I have a question, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just saying, so I guess, what are the expectations of us in between the weekly sessions? In order for us to be successful through this program, what do you guys have for guidelines? Just continue, just apply what we're learning from these calls, or is there something else specific you think we should do?
Sounds like a great question for Josh.
Good thing I'm here. Yeah, hi.
Right on you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's basically do your company. If you haven't launched, we want you to launch. And if you've launched, try and grow. And, that's really the goal is to, if you're, you're already a graduate, you're really doing your company, right? Yeah. So is to have a strong pitch, and the best thing to make a strong pitch is to have traction. Like showing is better than telling. So the more progress you can get done, the better. Yeah, it's really like every week, then you'll hopefully have an update on like, oh, I did all this stuff last week and this is my biggest problem now. What do you guys think? So that's pretty much it. What did I miss?
The other thing is having gone through this 2 or 3 years already, how do you expect, or how do you see this format going different? Because the last time you did these were all in person, everyone was in the same location and having networking a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a little different, I think. And it's different because we're also sort of opening up to so much more scale. So we're going to see how it goes and figure it out and try and make more bulk processes that still work, like these breakout rooms, hopefully are self-sufficient-ish. Before it was like just 5 companies, they're already funded. We they apply, they get in, we funded them, and then just working with them to like, all right, let's get more traction and let's go and let's pivot if we need to. And that's still the goal here. And we've just got some extra people who are interested in following along and perhaps starting their own. And it's over Zoom, which at least makes more people available. Since you just have to be at a computer somewhere in the world.
Yeah, I guess what's the stage of everyone in here? Like is the majority pre-launch, post-launch? I see a lot of 22, 23s. So yeah, if you guys have ideas or things that you're thinking about, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, just I guess for me, like, I'm interested in entrepreneurship or starting a company with people, but I just, having like access to other people to work with, and like that's what I would like, help and advice and a cohort of people that we could work together on something. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, that's a good, I mean, so we're inviting everyone to Slack so people can post things. We'll probably have a thing of just like, hey, want to start a company but need someone else? You need a co-founder or something. And here's my skills and here's some ideas I have and who's interested. So that should be possible, useful in that group. How about, I don't know if who already talked or Rick, I'll let you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm interested in kind of like learning similar to what Davey was saying, like what is everyone else interested in getting out of it? So I think like there's one side that's, yeah, what are we expecting? But then on the other side, it's kind of what's your expectation out of it? So I think some people are interested in entrepreneurship or have an idea or there's different stages. Like maybe by like show of thumbs up or something. Like how many people would say they're like pre-launch versus pre-idea? Yeah, so I would say like start pre-idea and then like pre-launch and then yeah, post or like already running a company. So how many people are at like the pre-idea stage? Okay, and then post-idea, pre-launch, and then post-launch. Okay, so yeah, I think we're kind of like at that pre-idea, and then some at the idea, ready to trying to figure out the process of getting it from that idea stage to launch. Okay, and then yeah, for the ones that are pre-idea, like what's the yeah, what would be most helpful for that stage? Like what is it that you would be interested in? Anybody feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I think the model that Josh talked about a little bit before, where it's like a Slack channel or even like small group video calls, where I have a couple ideas that I'd like to pitch to people just to see if anybody would be interested, but also like to see other people's ideas and would be willing to, you know, get on board with another company or another startup. So kind of having like that back and forth discussions and trying to like form groups based more off of shared interests and like skill compatibility would be something that would be really helpful for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of right, primordial ooze type features. Pushing the, well, let's do it right now. We got 11 minutes. What's some ideas or who, we already heard all the pitches. Anybody? Justin, what's yours?
So I'm actually in the kind of prototype development stage, my idea, but the person who's the main engineer is one of my ex-teammates. He graduated from Harvey Mudd last year, and now he is at Caltech. And so he's figuring out everything right now. So we're kind of at a plateau of development because he hasn't been able to like start working on it again, really. He had like a 3D printed design and everything. But one thing I was also kind of wondering was kind of just the manufacturing, like how to find manufacturers and kind of just the idea of how to get like the business running from that standpoint when you have a product and you have a design, how to make sure that like it works with patents, that type of thing, to make sure you're not crossing over any boundaries, and how to kind of just get it running, how to get it produced and that type of thing. Just like, how do you find or start that search for at least?
Yeah, that's probably, we definitely have a lot of people who've gone through that stuff, and we have a lot of IP lawyers and all that thing, and there'll be later lessons about that. But we can, yeah, I think in general, that sort of stuff we can put in, right, the Slack, and they'll be shared like the emails of all the mentors, not just our pod and things to get going. But general hardware is hard. Hard to get started and do all that, and you want to kind of, you know, really have good traction without going like that. Those are kind of those aren't the first stage, right? Like getting the patents and going and finding manufacturers and all that. That's not like what you're doing. You're like putting up a Kickstarter or you know, or like a you're selling it first, or like really, I'm not sure what, if it's consumer or, you know, marketing based, or you're getting LOIs, or you've got a prototype hopefully, but then, you know, actually scaling up to like going all in, and you
So
know,
that's
raise money without, right?
so like what's kind of the steps? Like once you have a prototype ready, what would you say the next step is in that process?
Yeah, I would say trying to sell it. Or Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing. I think selling is one of the weird things, especially coming from like an engineering background, was I didn't realize how much of my day would end up being selling before kind of like, or while in that prototype phase. So anytime you're working on a product, you're also like selling the product, pitching the product, and learning about it. So every conversation that you could have with a potential customer is really what you want to be doing. So if you have a prototype of what, I'm not entirely sure what product or what within hardware or whatever, but you really want to be able to find the customers before you even really start to look at what the solution to that problem would be. Because ultimately what you're going to find from that customer, if it's like whatever that product is you're going to find out what their alternatives are today. And that might also push you in the direction of figuring out, okay, who is the right manufacturer? So if they're already making like ASIC circuit boards or something like that, and they're doing it just for themselves, maybe your market is like, hey, I'm going to design this thing and sell it to like a ton of people. And you might go through the process of like learning from them, okay, who is the right manufacturer, who is potentially in this space, to be able to go and find either more customers that are in market for that, or helping to find that manufacturing partner. But yeah, to me, it probably wouldn't really even start from that manufacturing standpoint, but to Josh's point, looking at sales as the next paid place. And I think that kind of goes back to what Josh was saying at the beginning, is like the money aspect of it is actually decently important when you're thinking about it, is like the sales aspect is going to be the thing that turns an idea into a business. So you need to be able to sell whatever it is that you're producing to someone else, and you need to validate that you can sell it to someone.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and what, Javier, what's your idea or status, or did you already talk about it before I hopped in? Or Kobe? Anyone else have any other ideas they want to pitch, or the status of things? Charles? Anyone? Kobe, yeah.
I actually have a question.
Okay.
So the main reason why I joined this, why I joined HMC INQ was just to get some general ideas for entrepreneurship. So I was thinking that for a lot of engineering students, they maybe have the technical expertise to understand what what products or what I don't know, software services they want to provide. But I think as an economics major, I don't really necessarily have the expertise nor the knowledge. So I am basically completely I have no idea what idea I want to pursue, and it's not like I have an idea that I thing that I really want to do, and then again, even though, for example, I'm a huge wine lover, and maybe when I get really rich, I might buy up a winery or like a vineyard. It's not like it's not a startup idea that I want to pursue, right? So I wonder, how people generate their startup ideas, and yeah, so that's my main question, really. Is how do you find an idea that you want to be pursuing for the next 10 to 20 years?
Right. Well, I think that it's more about having a problem. I think that's why the programmer thing working well with entrepreneurship is that like that impatience, like you see more problems when you're impatient, and like I can't imagine. I don't understand how people sit in the right lane for so long to get off the freeway when the two lanes both get off the freeway. You could be in the second to right lane, and I drive by them all going, "What are you doing?" And it's like I ride with people, and they just don't care. They don't think of it as a problem. They're just used to it, right? So you have to be like you kind of have to be a slightly bitter or jaded or impatient with the world, I think, to find a lot of ideas which are just come from problems, right? And some of them are like rinky-dink things. Like if you could just do a little exercise of like today, what things were not perfect? You know, what made today not perfect for you? And like, what would have been a perfect day? I guess we lost her. No, like maybe you can make a service that keeps you on Zoom and like automatically records the Zoom that you missed and texts you a video link of the part you missed when you dropped off Zoom, right? Or something like that. Like just think of every little problem that comes up and act like it doesn't have to be that way. You know, be unhappy with the status quo. Be like almost crazy about like, you know, as you get older, it should be easier as you're younger. As you get older, you're just like, I got used to it. You know, that's how life is. But usually it's young people that are the ones who start new startups that change things because they're like, I'm learning everything and I don't understand why the world is like this and this is stupid. And old people are like, So it's really doesn't have to be from a technical. In fact, you shouldn't be coming from a technical side. Like that's one of the big advice things, like why common everything is like, we don't want solutions in search of a problem. We don't want to be like, hey, I learned about AI and I know how to do blockchain. So what can we do with this hammer I have? Like, what can we nail, right? You want to come at it from problems, and everyone has problems. Like anyone can, you don't have to be a programmer or technical. You just have to hate the world as it is and want to make it better, right? So yeah, just like, and sometimes, and I think the thing that keeps you going for 10 years is that like, once you have anyone and once you have a customer, then they talk to you and they tell you about their other problems. And if your goal is more about fixing problems and helping people and making money and, you know, selling them more stuff, that's what you're going to do every day. And it might be like, I'm selling horseshoes. You know, it's not what I learned in college. It has no interesting technical background, but I sure am selling a lot of horseshoes and I'm hiring people and I'm expanding to this other part of the world. And it's interesting because I didn't know I didn't know horseshoes was such a big problem. Or you realize that horseshoes is not that big a problem, but then you talk to your customers and they say, what I really need is a robot horse or some kind of automated horse. Where I don't even have to feed the horse or something. And you go, now that's an interesting problem. And then it just keeps going and compounding as long as you're always sort of thinking like, what's the thing that could move the needle, right? Like selling one more horseshoe right now would be great. 0 to 1 is moving the needle. But once you're selling 10, 20 horseshoes a day, you're like, what can I do that sells 100 horseshoes a day? Or is there a different problem that's out there? So I don't know, that's a philosophically, but yeah, practically I would say just like make a list of what would have made today perfect that didn't happen. And it can be totally like, you know, crazy stuff. And you'll start to work backwards and be like, oh, there is something here that could actually be done.
Yeah, and also I think you mentioned like, oh, I have an interest in wine or like that industry. Like the other side is follow people within that industry. And you'll start to learn what their problems are. They'll be complaining about different things that you might not be exposed to as someone that's an outsider to that industry. So not all problems that you might be having today, but like other people's problems. Like Twitter's a great way to see and be exposed to other people's problems. I know like for us, we're in Slack groups and all different things associated with our business. We're on pretty much any service where someone could have their own opinion. We'll be there because ultimately what we're in search of is like someone that's like, hey, this is what is bothering me about X or Y. And if we're able to see our path to a solution to that problem, that ultimately like expands kind of the horizons of the market. And yeah, to Josh's point, going from like 10 to 100 or 100 to 1,000, it makes it a lot easier to see, oh, these are tangentially connected problems, or this person's complaining about this, everyone else is too. And that's ultimately what you want to be able to do, is continue to solve those problems.
Yeah, it's better to start with a market and a customer base than a solution or a problem. Like that's actually what we did right at DreamHost. We didn't know what we wanted to do. We just knew we loved the internet and the web. And we actually started by making this mailing list of, we would find people who had cool websites, web designers, and we would just be like, hey, do you want to join and talk about the web? And they're like, okay. And it was just free. And we just hosted their website on our server. And then basically we ended up hosting websites because that was the main problem that everyone on the internet was willing to pay for. No one's going to pay for anything else on the internet. We're going. Yep, 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I work in construction and trying to build houses, and I mean, obviously one of the big problems in like California, especially, is there's a shortage of houses. It just seems like a difficult problem to apply. How, you know, so I'm not sure how one approaches that.
Well, I think that there's like big problems and small problems. So like that's a really big market. But then at the same time, the problem that you want to solve is probably like the smallest problem within that market that you can solve that someone's willing to pay you for. So thinking about it through the lens of a business, like maybe it's not building houses or housing shortage that's actually the problem, but it's access to like I don't know what exactly it would be, but maybe it's access to I think like transportation or something else that's like selling or doing something along those lines, and be looking at the edges of that problem to say, okay, like long term, I want to be able to solve this problem, but short term, there's a tangentially related market that exists there, and with my skills today, I can solve X out of that and approach it through that lens. Is also another path to it. I think like that like doesn't necessarily need to be a master plan behind it, because I don't think that even the best laid plans really end up achieving kind of like the immediate goal. But thinking about the problem through that lens might be a helpful way to approach it, as well as there's probably some smaller problem within that that you could solve. Maybe it has to do with matching up labor within that market to make it so it's able to be solved faster, easier, or just insurance, or like there's tons of problems associated that are tangentially related to that may not require as much capital to like build new houses or change permitting or anything.
All right, I think we're gonna close this all out for today, though. Great to meet everybody. We'll be sending emails and get on Slack, and there's a Tuesday thing, and we'll have the real official program that's not just welcome intro stuff next Friday. And have a good weekend, Labor Day weekend, everything. Woo! Wherever you are. And thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.